And now, it's time for talk.
Tonight we're going to show you some clips again of some of the past shows we've done. These seem to be some of our most popular shows. And some things that you seem to particularly enjoy, you of you who are viewers, are the cook shows. So we're going to show you some cooks that we have had on the show and some interesting dishes and some of their styles and whatnot. The first two guests we're going to show you are Steve Sokoloff, who is the assistant prosecuting attorney, and then Bruce French, who is a farmer. Both of these men come on and do some exotic dishes. The men always are willing to put in more time in the kitchen than I would be, for instance. We're going to show you two recipes. See if you cook with these things in this way. Watch these two men. Now, you do have some what? Is this
There's parsley and a little bit of tarragon on there, and there's some minced garlic in the oil.
All right, and you're going to show us, you're going to start from scratch and show us how to do this.
Right.
All right, great.
Okay. Have a little device here that introduced to people. It's called a mezzaluna, which means a half moon, and it's the best thing I've ever found for chopping parsley. I don't know where in this immediate vicinity you can get it. I suspect that some stores down in Jonesboro or Memphis might be able to find one of these. But just by rocking it back and forth over the parsley, it chops it nice and finely.
Now, fresh parsley adds a different flavor
than the dried. If you're in a hurry, again, you can use the dried parsley flakes.
But you recommend the fresh?
I prefer using fresh ingredients whenever possible.
Okay.
And then the garlic, for those of you who missed it the last time.
Oh, now watch this. Watch this. Now let the camera close in on you. All right, we're on.
In peeling, if you take
wait just a second. Okay. Now wait just. All right. Now we're on. Now he hasn't peeled this. He's just separated it from the clove.
Lay the knife on it flat side, and just give it a shot with your hand.
All right. All right. Go ahead and let him see it.
And that'll break the skin loose. It just comes right off there. This one, of course, as I demonstrated.
Says it will come right off.
Yeah,
all right.
We'll try it one more time. The harder you hit it, the better.
Okay, leave it, get down low here. Okay.
The better it comes off.
Right. All right. That's great. Now you're going to mince that.
That's minced very fine. Just done with a rocking motion with a knife. You can do the parsley the same way with a knife.
If you can't find a mezzaluna.
Right.
All right. And you won't remember what to ask for if you don't have one anyway, so you better just stick to a knife and use the what you have.
A little parsley, a little paprika on the top to add it some color, and a squeeze or so of lemon juice over it.
Don't you like the way he cooks? It's a squeeze or so, and a sprinkle, and that you can tell somebody who has really cooked.
And that's it.
And that's it. Oh, look at that.
Now this could be served over egg noodles or rice or spaghetti, and with
spaghetti.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's a whole new.
The next thing I want to show you how to make, and this is something that's real fast, and it's not quite as familiar a Chinese dish as you see around here. They're just beginning to get a few restaurants in Memphis that serve this type of Chinese food.
What is it?
It's called Szechuan style Chinese food.
Szechuan. Spell Szechuan.
Okay. I'm going to look up at my Szechuan. Okay. Now, Szechuan is a province in western China. And most of the food that you're used to getting in Chinese restaurant is Cantonese style, from southwestern.
I see that on
southeastern China. But this is from western China. And its most obvious attribute of Szechuan style is that it's very hot. It's nearly all cooked with hot peppers. Everything's hot and spicy. And with tree ears. Now, tree ears are mushrooms. They're the kind of mushrooms sometimes you see on a hollow log going out of the side of the tree.
Not really.
Yes.
Are they really?
Yes.
Okay.
And there's a tree ear.
All right, you got it.
Just one of them.
Tree ears, I've seen them. Start saving your tree ears.
Well, now, no, I wouldn't go picking mushrooms unless you know exactly what you're doing. Now, here's what they look like before you soak them. They come dried. I'll shake a few out in my hand. They come dried like this.
All right, now wait. Yeah, okay, there it is.
There we go.
Well, they sure do increase in
And then they
from one of those to one of these.
Right, they quadruple in size or more.
Okay, all right. So
But to fix these, you pour boiling water over them and let them stand for about 20 minutes. Here, we'll just put that back in later.
Okay, all right.
And then they come out nice and tender and big like this.
Just don't tell people what you're serving them, and they'll be all right.
Okay, now, here I have my pork. And this is thinly sliced pork loin.
Okay, it's been marinated?
It's been marinating in a sauce, which is made up of 2 tablespoons of light soy sauce, 2 tablespoons of dry sherry, 2 tablespoons of chili paste with garlic, which is something you'll probably have to get in a Chinese market somewhere.
Chili paste with garlic.
Chili paste with garlic,
all right.
a teaspoon of sugar, a half a teaspoon of salt. I want your cabbage to be crisp, just virtually raw, just enough to give it a little taste.
That's a characteristic of Chinese food. You just don't want anything done like we think of done.
Okay. Now, you can see how easy a dish this is to pick because it's done. Okay. I'll just empty it out onto a plate, and there's one serving of Szechuan style pork, hot pork with tree ears.
Hot pork with tree ears. All right. Bruce, boy, you see, this is a very educational program. You can tell that my style of cooking does not embrace chopping parsley with what was it, mezzaluna, or putting lemon on chicken. I learned that from Steve Sokoloff and also from Bruce French. You can tell that I have never cooked with tree ears, but that Szechuan style pork with tree ears was delicious. All right, now we're going to look at a couple of ladies who came on as our guests as cooks. We'll first look at Judy Haggard as she teaches us, or tries to teach us, to make bread, and her bread is delicious. So let's listen to her recipe.
The first ingredient that you see there is a package of dry yeast. And I'm opening my yeast now. And one important thing when you look at your yeast and when you go to the store to buy it is to notice on the back of the envelope the date, which tells you whether it's expired or not. You certainly want to have the freshest yeast that you can get, because this is what... Now then, I'm putting 1 cup of warm water in. And there's all sorts of things that people tell you about how to know whether your water is the right temperature. And it's real important that this be just warm. And I always tell some of the Girl Scouts that I've worked with when I have taught them how to make bread is to test it as you would, say, a baby's bottle. And I have put already in a bowl here the rest of the ingredients that were on the recipe, which includes the sugar,
A little bit. All right.
the shortening, and the salt.
All right. Now, there's not a lot of shortening in there.
Now, this recipe calls for just 2 tablespoons of shortening. First of all, the sugar helps activate the gas that comes from the yeast that makes the bread rise. The salt helps retard the process of the yeast and also gives it flavor. And, of course, the shortening is part that makes the texture of the bread.
You're not beating up the shortening.
Sort of. Yes, I am, because it will all purify into sort of a liquid process here.
All right. 1 egg.
Put the 1 egg in and beat it up. Now I'm adding the flour now, and I'm just sifting it in. The recipe that you copied here said that you're putting 3 to 3.5 cups of all-purpose flour. I don't measure it because all flours are a little bit different, and the weather makes a big difference too on how it goes together. So it's better for a beginner even to learn to look at it and see it by look and by touch. And you see that it's beginning to turn away from the bowl. It's not sticking as much. And the next step that I always do is that I completely flour my pastry cloth. And if you don't have a pastry cloth, you can use your counter. It's just a little bit messier to clean up. So sprinkle the flour all over, and then turn the dough out. Sprinkle your flour all over and also all over your hands.
Throw a little over your left shoulder for good luck.
Right. Now this is another thing that people will give you all sorts of different ideas on how to do it. Most of the books say that what you do is you turn the bread a quarter of a turn each time. The important thing that I've always stressed when I'm trying to teach someone how to do it is that you use the heel of your hands. You can see already it's taking a different form. It is in a ball form. And what I want to do is to get it to be a very, very smooth ball and one that's elastic.
All right, you know we have done a fun thing right now. We have speeded this up to double time. You see the line across your screen indicates that we are in the speeding up process because Judy needs and needs and needs. And really good bread takes that. We did not have enough time to get the whole process to show you just a clip of making bread. We'll stop this double time just in time to hear her explanation, but you will need to need much longer.
See how you see little bitty tiny bubbles on it? I'm not sure if you could see it on the screen. But now that it is one complete ball.
Now, that is ready to put in a greased bowl, set in a warm place. And covered with a damp cloth and let it rise for how long?
Until it's doubled. And to know when it's doubled, you take your finger and you stick it in about a half inch. And if it stays down, then you know it's doubled. If it comes back up, you've got some more rising to do.
Put your finger in. A bowl of basic dough, basic bread dough.
The next one is called cheese crescents, and basically it's the same dough, but it's got Parmesan cheese in it. And rolled up a little bit differently. This one is the braided wreath, which can be either braided as a wreath or perhaps in a rectangle. And the last one here is called a sesame bun, which can also serve as a hamburger bun.
Now the second lady who is our guest and cooks for us is Louise Walker. She makes perfect divinity every time. The secret's in the beating. Let's go into Louise's kitchen and see how she does it.
It's the beating.
It's the beating.
I had, you want me to go ahead and
Yeah.
I had people to ask me for my recipe, and I gave it to them, and it failed. But I think it's all in the beating.
Okay, it's all in the wrist, and Louise today is going to show us how. Now, how many eggs are we?
Two eggs.
2 egg whites. Well, 2 egg whites, 3 cups of sugar.
Now I take a half a cup of Kalo white syrup, and a half a cup of water.
Okay, now you want these egg whites ready to do something with?
Yes, I want to pour my hot syrup over these.
All right. About the cooking that sugar and syrup together for a certain.
Well, now the first, I cook it to soft boil. Then I pour half over my egg whites, which I have beaten, and I put the other half on the stove and cook it to a hard crack, which only takes about a minute. And I stir this until it completely dissolves the sugar, and I think that's another secret in making divinity. This takes a while. In fact, this is the hardest part for me.
Now it's completely clear, but
first cooking, when it comes to a soft boil stage, then I take my egg whites, my syrup and sugar, and I pour half of this
in the soft ball stage, half of it over your egg white.
Then I put my other half back on my burner and let it cook just for a minute to a hard crack. Now we're just about finished. See? Yes, this
Louise,
is ready.
do you lick all the beaters of all this you make?
Well, I had my share of it. I've got one. Good batch.
All right,
Now, this is all right.
Stay over this way.
Now here I'm dipping it in my pups, I call them.
Okay.
See how pretty they are? And
now, is that hot? Is that mixture hot?
yes, it's hot. No way, that you can quit, because it'll get hard on you. See how smooth those are?
Oh.
And this then gets a little rough. That's why, see the rough texture.
Okay, right.
So that's why you've got to get it
You got to
out
hurry.
where
You
it'll
got to
be
hurry.
pretty.
This isn't pudding, but the eating's going to go on.